Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is the third episode of my knitting podcast, and I just realized that it's been already 1 month since I posted my first video. Time goes fast when you're having fun, don't you think? When I first started out, I never thought that I would enjoy making these videos as much as I do. I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to be in any kind of photos or videos, so it has taken me by surprise how much I enjoy making these, and I hope you also like watching them. In the last week's episode I was talking about my journey as a beginner knitwear designer, and I also talked about submitting work for publications, those submission calls, and getting rejection letters, and how I deal with rejection. And there has been a lot of conversation about the subject ever since I posted that video online on YouTube a week ago. And so many of you have sent me messages telling me about your story and sharing your thoughts and words of encouragement with me, and I'm very grateful for all of those. They are very much appreciated. You have told me about your struggles as well, and I have noticed that this whole thing is very common, so I'm definitely not alone with these thoughts. However, it took me by surprise that many of you will rather talk to me privately via Instagram's direct messages instead of commenting under my photos or under my YouTube videos. But I do understand that this is quite a hard subject to talk about, and it took me a long time to gather the courage to talk about it publicly. So I do understand that talking about it is hard, and to talk about it publicly is even harder. But I hope that the conversation will continue, and today I thought I would make a little summary about everything that has happened since last week. And my thoughts have changed quite a lot ever since I started to talk about this, and that's actually the main point why I wanted to talk about it in the beginning, because sometimes when you have something that bothers you, you get stuck in your own thoughts if you don't share it with anyone. So talking about it and sharing it publicly usually helps to clear your mind and gather your thoughts and find new points of view. So I wanted to share them with you today. First of all, many of you commented to me how it is okay to feel disappointed if something you have been working on long and hard is not selected for a publication. So it's okay to feel sad and disappointed if things don't go the way you planned them to go. And also it is okay to take the rejection personally, because it is personal in that sense that it happens to you personally. However, taking it personally in the sense that you think that it happens to you because who you are, or it happens to you like only to you and to nobody else, or it happens to you every time, that's not how you should be taking it. So we shouldn't let it affect us on personal level in that sense that we let it hurt our self-confidence, or we start doubting ourselves or our abilities as designers. So that's not okay. As I established last week already, usually it's not about your design's worth, but it's about the publication and what ideas they have for that issue, and probably it's mostly that your design just didn't fit that particular issue of that publication. So like I said in last week's episode, it probably isn't about the worth of your idea or your design. Second of all, what you guys told me, no great designer ever got where they are without facing rejection at some point of their career. And somebody wrote to me that Vincent van Gogh only sold one painting during his lifetime, so clearly that is not the measurement of one's artistic worth or artistic abilities. Often I forget to take a look back, so I'm all the time just looking forward and looking the way I want to go and seeing everywhere I haven't yet reached, or all the goals that I have missed, and I forget that I have already traveled quite a long journey to get here, from the moment I started to knit, how I taught myself to knit, how I taught myself to design patterns, how I gathered all my courage to publish my first knitting pattern on Ravelry some 4 years ago, and how a year and a half ago I sent out my first submission. And it's been only 9 months since my first ever magazine published pattern came out. It was last August in Pom Pom Quarterly. So I am a beginner at this, and I have been doing this for such a short time. All the great designers I look up to, they have long careers. None of them became instant hits overnight, so there is a lot of invisible work behind their success that I'm not aware of. Also, it's been very humbling to realize that even though I myself consider myself a newbie and a beginner, there are so many of you who already look up to me as a designer, and realizing that has been an eye-opener. And especially there was Audrey, who is Yarn Flakes on Instagram. She posted on her Insta stories a confessional, which went something like this. Let me read this aloud. Just watched Sari a new video about submission rejects in designing, and it's the uplifting, honest testimony I needed. As a beginner designer who's pretty much mostly facing rejection, it's obviously a relief to hear a designer whose work I love talk about this. So that message really touched me, and I realized that it's really important to think about all this stuff and talk about it as well, because once we start talking about it, other people will notice that they are not alone with their thoughts either. So we can all find ways to grow and ways to move forward instead of just staying inside our heads. Also, you wrote about taking submissions as learning experiences and creative outlets, and many of you made the comment about regarding submissions as designing experiments and trying out weird and new and silly ideas, bouncing ideas back and forth, and also like creative experiments. And I really like this train of thought because I'm always full of ideas and inspiration, so I never have a time to do everything I want or create everything I want. So in that sense, this could be the perfect opportunity to try out what ideas are worth developing further and what ideas don't really work. And I'm not just saying this in that sense that you should have somebody else tell you if this is if it's a good idea or no, so that if it's a rejection you should give up on the idea. I more mean it in that sense that for example, the sweater I was wearing in the last episode, the one with 3 colors, and I was talking about how sad I was about it being rejected. So instead of thinking that it's an idea that I shouldn't be working on, I should take the sting of rejection as a sign that there is something about the pattern, something about the idea that I'm really proud of, and because it hurts so much, it is something that I should develop further, despite it having been rejected from that publication. I have noticed that if I have sent out a submission that I'm not that sure about in the beginning, then if it gets rejected, it's more like okay, fine, I didn't want to do that anyway, or I wasn't that sure about that anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But if it's something that I really like and I really think it's a good idea and enjoy it, and if it gets rejected, then I have noticed that that hurts way more. So instead of just giving up on that idea, I think we should see it as a sign that there's something about it that we like, so we should keep working on it. And Verena, who is the Wool Club on Instagram, and she is one of the owners of Making Stories publications, she wrote to me a comment saying that for her the game changer and the eye-opener was the idea that you should only submit the ideas that you want to keep working on and develop further, despite the answer from the publication. So only sending ideas that you believe in that way that you would still keep working on it if it's a no. And she told me that she thinks about the submission as the first steps of designing process. So if it's a no, then she has already done the first groundwork of a new design that she will put out in the world herself. Also, Kerry Knits, is on Instagram, Kerry Knits, Kerry said to me that she never sits around waiting for a yes, but instead when she submits something, she keeps working on something else, she instantly moves on to the next thing. And I think that is definitely something that I should be working on more in the future. I often feel that when I send out a submission, it's like I'm holding my breath until the moment that I get an answer. So you can imagine that is pretty exhausting. And instead of sitting around and waiting for the answer, I think I should try to relax more and continue working either on that idea or something else, so that I'm moving forward all the time. And if I get a no from the publication, like Verena said, also I would have some of the groundwork for the new design already done. Or if it's a yes, also in that sense I have already done something, instead of just like wasting time and waiting around for the answer to come. However, there are some limitations to this train of thought, because some publications let you choose the yarn you want to work with on your own, but then there are those who tell you what yarn to use and send you the yarn, so you can't really make exact swatches or count the exact stitch counts before you know what yarn you are using. So you can't write the whole pattern ready beforehand, before you know what the yarn you are using. But however, you can do the basics, you can write how the construction is and so on. Another thing that many of you commented, and also what I have been thinking about a lot during this last week, is finding your own style as a designer and trusting your own instincts. And I think this is a very important point. Recently my motto has been that if I like something, there must be other people who like it too. So I really can't be the only one who enjoys something. There are too many of us on this world, so I can't be alone. And also I have been thinking about knitwear designing, in the sense that we are also fashion designers, and we shouldn't forget that, because fashion keeps moving forward, fashion changes. There are every season new things, and the fashion designers all strive to be different from one another. They want to have their own style that is recognized. So there's no point that we all try to do the same thing or copy each other. So finding your own style and trusting it is really important. And there are so many different styles of knitters, so many different styles of knitwear designers. For example, Petite Knit, who designs really simple, classical, minimalistic knitwear. And then there's Stephen West from West Knits, who has this very eccentric avant-garde style, and both have huge follower bases on Instagram and other places. So there are people who want to knit one thing, and then there are people who want to knit other kinds of things. So I think there is place for every one of us. Another thing I have noticed is that people will see if you are fake. People will notice if you are awkward doing what you do, or if you are unsure about it. And that kind of mood really spreads. So if you are awkward and unsure, all the people who are watching you start to feel unsure as well. Probably they don't know why they feel that way, but it goes around. And that's why I think it's very important to trust yourself and trust your work, and do things the way that you like. Because if you are proud of yourself and proud of your work and you feel positive about it, people will notice that too, and they start to feel the same way about your designs and your work. So we shouldn't let rejection bring us down, and we shouldn't take it personally, like I said earlier, because it doesn't really tell anything about your design or its worth. But like I established earlier, it's more most likely just that it didn't fit that particular issue of that particular publication. So we should be taking more pride in the fact that we have tried, because the alternative is that we don't try at all, and there's nothing to be gained with not trying. Even though it hurts when your submission is rejected, you haven't really lost anything by doing that. What I mean is that if you send out a submission and it gets rejected, then okay, it didn't get selected this time, but you still have that your idea, and you still have the groundwork you have done. So you have already done something. But if you don't submit at all, then you're just sitting around on your sofa and you're not getting forward at all. So even though nobody likes the rejection, if we don't do it, the alternative is that we never move forward. And if that's what you want, then fine, but yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. However, there was this universal agreement that it's really hard to improve your work when you don't get any feedback from the publication, why you didn't get selected, or what is the thing that you should be working on next time. And in the last week's episode, I talked about the idea of shortlisting designs for a publication, and especially among the beginner knitwear designers, this was a supported idea. So hopefully, if there are any editors watching this, this could be a new way of doing things. Another thing I was thinking about during this last week about how to get the feedback that I need is that a couple of times when I have applied for an internship or a job that I didn't get, I have contacted the firm or the school after that and asked why I didn't get selected, and every time I have had a really nice reply and something that I can work on next time. So I was thinking that instead of me just sitting around and wondering what went wrong, I could send out a message to the publication and ask them to evaluate my work and give me feedback on my design. So maybe that would make it easier for me next time, instead of just like wondering myself that, okay, well, I'm so bad at this and nobody likes my designs like I have done so far. That is not very productive way to do things. Talking about editors, a couple of them contacted me also, and I really enjoyed the talk with them and hearing a bit what goes on behind scenes in a publication and what happens after the submission calls, and it was very eye-opening to hear those thoughts as well. And I'm in no way jealous about their job of narrowing down the designs to a coherent collection of just a couple of items. And like I said to Hannah-Lisa from Making Stories, the job of having to say no to a budding designer must be at least as hard as it is to be the budding designer who gets the no. So I really appreciate all the work that goes behind the publication work. However, I'm really happy that there are places like Ravelry and loveknitting.com where you can self-publish your own designs also, so that if you are a beginner designer, there is a way to get your work out there and to build a following for your ideas and your designs. And also, every time you design something and publish a pattern, you learn from that process. So it's very valuable as well to self-publish the ideas. So I don't know where I got the thought that if a design is rejected from a submission call, that you shouldn't be working on it. Maybe it just my self-doubt talking, when I think that immediately if it's once rejected, it should be totally rejected and it's a bad idea and I shouldn't be working on it anymore. So I think we have already established that that is a flawed thought pattern, so the outcome of that thought pattern also must be flawed. So it's okay to continue working on those ideas that you feel passionate about and you want to develop further. For example, the sweater I was wearing in last week's episode, the 3-color sweater, I'm still working on that design and I'm going to publish it, and I'm going to publish it on my own. But there are also some of you who told that you have submitted work to another publication if it fits their submission goal, and finally after a couple of tries found a home for the pattern, and I think that's really comforting, and I should really think about that more and not just give up on the idea altogether if it gets a no on the first try. So the last thing about this that I want to say is what you commented is that this conversation isn't about just knitting or designing this world, but it happens in other aspects of our lives as well, in auditions, in applying for jobs and for schools, in publishing world, for authors, and so on. So the list goes on, and the greater question is that how do we learn to realize that rejection is not the end of the world and it shouldn't stop us from going forward and trying to reach our dreams? How do we learn to trust ourselves and our ideas and love ourselves enough that we want to keep doing what we love despite what other people think? So I wish I had the answer to that question, but I don't. So I hope we keep talking about this, and maybe together we will find new ways to deal with these things, and we start to feel better about ourselves. Maybe you have seen me knitting here all the time. I will show you what I'm working on. So, like I said about the last week's episode, I had the 3-color sweater on me, and I also mentioned that I've been working on a unicolor version of the same design. So when I'm publishing the pattern, there will be alternatives for using 3 colors or 2 colors or just 1 color. And also I'm giving 2 sleeve options. The sweater I was wearing, it had long sleeves, and this one that I'm working at the moment, the unicolor one, it will have shorter sleeves because summer is coming and I want something that I can wear during the summer. And also the winters in Finland, you can use short-sleeved woolen shirts under cardigans, and I like that kind of look. So let me show you this. Okay, so it's here. I'm knitting the bottom ribbing at the moment, then I still have to add the neckband here at the top, and then I will add the sleeves here on both sides. So this has the similar twisted stitch pattern on the front as the 3-color sweater. However, this is slightly wider than the other sweater had, and I used reverse stockinette for the sides and also for the back. I think that makes the design pop out more. I like how it's quite geometric and has this 3-dimensional look about it. So I'm really enjoying knitting this. This is knitted in tuku wool fingering, so it's Finn sheep wool. And as a Finn myself, I would like to use our native sheep wool, so I really like this. Even though it's a bit rough looking, it's very soft against the skin. I have very sensitive skin and I can't use anything that is prickly or ticklish. But this, even though it is rustic looking, I can use against my bare skin, so this is going to be my summer go-to tea, long tea. And I can't wait to get it finished. There's so little left to be done. And after this is finished, I will write the rest of the pattern, and then there will be a call for test knitters. If you are interested in that, keep checking back, because the call for test knitters will be coming quite soon. I could show you some more of the things I have on my needles and what I have finished lately. In the first episode ever, I showed you this hat, if you remember it. This is the Kiuru hat, and I'm using the same pattern as for my Kiuru sweater. And at the moment this hat is being test knitted, so I'm hoping to get the pattern out very soon. And it looks like this. It is a very lightweight spring hat. That is something that can be folded into your coat pocket. And also I bike a lot, so I need something that fits under my bike helmet, and I think this lightweight hat is perfect for these transitional seasons. Also, in the first episode you saw me working on my Furrow cowl, and it's finished now, finally. 2 weeks ago I was complaining about Finnish spring weather, or the lack of it. It was minus 12 degrees if I remember correctly, but the spring has finally arrived. There is still some snow out there, but definitely getting warmer day by day, and I think this is already a bit too much for this spring, so it has to wait for next fall. In Finland you can count on the winter coming every year, so this is definitely going to be my favorite cowl next winter. So the pattern is Furrow cowl by Jared Flood, and the pattern was from Jared Flood Woolens book from Brooklyn Tweed. And the yarn I used is Rowan's hemp tweed chunky, and it's a yarn that my husband bought me, so very extra special. I really like the stitch definition. There's this moss stitch and then this unique cable pattern that I really like. I had a bit too little of the yarn, so the top garter stitch section is a bit too short. It should be as long as the bottom one, but I didn't want to go and buy another skein just to complete the last 2 centimeters. I think it's fine like this, and let me show and put it on. You can see it how it looks underneath. So it is like this, a very massive chunky cowl, really nice. I like it, very warm, and also I like it that it's quite wide here at the bottom, so you can pull it down. I usually freeze at work, so this is going to be very nice next winter for work as well, on inside and also outside when it's freezing. Another cowl that I have finished is this little garter stitch cowl. This is long yarns done ago, and it's this simple garter stitch loop. Actually, this wasn't going to be a loop, this was the bottom of a sweater design that was supposed to become this really boxy sweater that I ended up ripping, but when I had ripped all the way down here, I realized that I really like this yarn and the garter stitch, so I decided to leave this last bit of the hem and just bound off the bottom edge to make this cowl for myself. It's also very simple, and I think I used 3.5mm needles for this and cast it on something like 200 or maybe 204 stitches, and just knitted every other row knit and every other row pull to get this garter look. So you can copy the idea if you want. Very simple, very beginner. This could also be worked flat and then seamed at the edge if you want to knit all the rows. So like this, very simple loop. Then just one more thing I want to say about the Artemis socks, or these ones. The pattern came out at the end of March, and this was done in collaboration with Annabelle Williams hand-dyed natural dyed yarns. Loveknitting.com has shortlisted this pattern as one of their contenders for April's pattern of the month, and if you like it, I would love you to go to loveknitting.com and vote for this design, so maybe I could also win the pattern of the month title. I'm already so honored and feeling so joyous about having been shortlisted, but well, we all want to win, don't we? So go there and vote for my pattern, or if you see something else that you like, you can vote for your favorite. Lastly, I will show you one more thing. It's this amazingly gorgeous pink yarn. This is from a Finnish dyer. She also has her own yarn shop. It's called Kässäkerho Pom Pom, and this is their merino single, this rose colored yarn, and I'm going to use this for another spring hat. I have been playing around with an idea of a ribbed hat that will be knitted from top down. I usually always myself have the problem of finding the perfect length for a ribbed hat, so that's why I wanted to knit it the other way around, so starting from the top and going down, and I can continue as long as I want to get the perfect fit. Thank you for watching this episode, and I would still like to hear your thoughts about submissions and submission rejects, so please send me messages. I love to hear your thoughts and your stories. Also, I have been working on a couple of submissions at the moment, and I was thinking about filming the process of me doing submissions, because there were some of you who were interested in this whole submission thing, who were also beginners and who hadn't even sent out their first submissions. So I thought that I would share my process with you, and maybe some of you will find it helpful. Is this something that you would be interested in seeing, or what do you think? Anyway, thank you for watching this video and have a lovely day.